The notification came through at 2:47 a.m. while I was reviewing quarterly reports for my investment portfolio. A family group chat message from my brother Jake. Thanksgiving at Mom's. Traditional potluck. Sarah brings dessert as usual since she can't afford the main course. 17 laughing emojis from various cousins followed. I stared at my phone screen, then at my computer monitor displaying the portfolio summary. Tech Innovations LLC sat at the top of my holdings list. $94.2 million invested through 3 different shell companies over the past 5 years. The same Tech Innovations LLC that employed my brother Jake as their Chief Innovation Officer. A title he'd been bragging about for months without realizing where his company's funding actually came from. I typed back, looking forward to it. I'll bring something special. The something special was silence. Always had been. Growing up, Jake was the golden child. Soccer captain, honor roll, accepted to Stanford on a partial scholarship that my parents proudly supplemented. I was the practical one, community college, state school transfer, degree in accounting that everyone called safe but boring. When Jake graduated with his computer science degree and immediately landed a job at a promising tech startup, the family narrative was set in stone. Jake was destined for Silicon Valley success. I was destined for middle management mediocrity. What they didn't know was that I'd been tracking Tech Innovations LLC since before Jake even applied there. Their initial funding rounds, their revenue projections, their expansion plans. All of it crossed my desk during my early years at Meridian Investment Group. When I identified them as a high-growth opportunity, I convinced 3 of our shell companies to invest substantial amounts. By the time Jake got hired, I was already their largest anonymous backer. The irony was delicious, but I'd never been one to gloat. I preferred watching from the shadows as Jake described his massive company and incredible opportunities, without knowing he owed his entire career to his supposedly unsuccessful sister. Thursday morning arrived gray and cold. I drove my modest Honda Civic to Mom's house, the same car I'd been driving for 6 years. It was reliable, paid off, and completely invisible, exactly how I preferred to move through the world. In the passenger seat sat a store-bought pumpkin pie, the kind that screamed, I couldn't afford to make something homemade. Perfect. The driveway was already packed with luxury vehicles. Jake's Tesla Model S dominated the center spot, flanked by Cousin David's BMW and Cousin Michelle's Audi. I parked on the street and walked up the familiar path, pie in hand, preparing for the annual performance. Sarah's here. Mom announced as I entered. The living room was packed with 23 family members, all dressed in their Thanksgiving best. Jake wore a crisp button-down with Tech Innovations, embroidered subtly on the chest. Company swag he'd been sporting to every family gathering since his promotion 6 months ago. Hey everyone, I said, setting the pie on the dessert table next to Michelle's elaborate tiramisu and David's professional-looking cheesecake. Store-bought again? Jake's wife Jennifer asked with mock concern. Sarah, we've told you we're happy to help if money's tight. The room collectively turned to look at me with that particular blend of pity and condescension that I'd grown accustomed to over the years. 23 pairs of eyes scanning my Target dress, my department store shoes, my obvious financial limitations. It's fine, I said, taking my usual seat on the folding chair they'd set up for me near the kitchen. I like to keep things simple. Jake launched into his traditional pre-dinner speech about gratitude and success. This year has been incredible for our family, he announced, gesturing broadly. Tech Innovations just closed our Series C funding round. We're now valued at over $200 million. Murmurs of appreciation rippled through the room. I calculated quickly. If they were valued at $200 million and I controlled roughly 47% through my various investments, that put my stake at approximately $94 million. Jake was essentially announcing my net worth while describing it as his own achievement. The best part, Jake continued, is knowing that our success creates opportunities for the whole family. Real success, not just getting by. His eyes landed on me during that last sentence. Subtle but clear. Dinner conversation flowed around the usual topics. David's law practice was expanding. Michelle's marketing agency had landed 3 new corporate clients. Cousin Tom had bought his second rental property. Each success story was presented with the unspoken understanding that some family members were contributors to the narrative, and others were cautionary tales. Sarah, Uncle Richard called out from across the table, how's the accounting work going? Still at that small firm downtown. Still there, I confirmed, cutting my turkey into precise pieces. Steady work, steady pay. That's good, Jennifer jumped in. Not everyone can be entrepreneurs like Jake. Someone has to do the regular jobs. Jake nodded sagely. Exactly. Sarah's always been practical. Risk-averse. There's value in that, even if it doesn't lead to the same kind of growth opportunities. I smiled and took another bite. Risk-averse. If they only knew about the $340 million I'd deployed across 12 different tech startups over the past 3 years. Or the private equity fund I'd helped establish that was now managing $1.2 billion in assets. The conversation shifted to holiday plans. Jake and Jennifer were taking their kids skiing in Aspen. David and his family were spending New Year's in Dubai. Michelle had booked a villa in Tuscany for 2 weeks. What about you, Sarah? Cousin Lisa asked. Any travel plans? I'm thinking about staying local, I said. Maybe catch up on some reading. Reading's free, Jake said with a laugh. Smart choice for the budget-conscious. The table erupted in polite chuckles. I nodded along, finishing my meal in comfortable silence while they discussed wine tastings and private ski instructors and 5-star resort amenities. After dinner, the family gathered in the living room for the traditional gratitude circle. Each person shared what they were most thankful for this year. Success stories piled upon success stories. Promotions, investments, property acquisitions, business expansions. When it reached Jake, he stood up with the confidence of someone who'd never questioned his place in the world. I'm grateful for the opportunity to build something meaningful, he said. Tech Innovations isn't just a job for me, it's a mission. We're creating technology that changes lives, and we're doing it with the kind of funding and support that most startups only dream about. Our investors believe in us completely, and that trust allows us to take the big swings that smaller companies can't afford. He paused, scanning the room with satisfaction. But mostly I'm grateful for family. For having people who understand what real success looks like and who support each other through the journey. Not everyone is cut out for the entrepreneurial path, and that's okay. We need people in steady, predictable roles too. Sarah's always been our reminder that there's honor in consistent, modest work. The room murmured approval. Several people glanced at me with expressions that mixed sympathy with genuine affection. Poor Sarah, working her steady little job, content with her steady little life. When my turn came, I stood up slowly. I'm grateful for perspective, I said simply. For understanding that things aren't always what they appear to be on the surface. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to make decisions that align with my values, even when those decisions aren't immediately visible to everyone around me. I sat back down. The circle continued without anyone asking for clarification about my cryptic response. Later, as people were gathering coats and preparing to leave, Jake cornered me in the kitchen while I was helping Mom load the dishwasher. Sarah, he said, his voice taking on that particular tone he used when he wanted to have a serious conversation. I hope you don't take any of this the wrong way. The comments about steady work and being practical, I mean them as compliments. I know you do, I said, rinsing a plate under the running water. It's just that sometimes I worry about you. You're 34, you're single, you're in the same job you started 7 years ago. I know you're probably dealing with some financial stress, and I want you to know that Jennifer and I have talked about it. If you ever need help, a loan, or maybe we could connect you with someone at Tech Innovations who's hiring for administrative positions, we're here for you. I turned off the water and looked at him directly. Jake's face was earnest, concerned, completely genuine in his desire to help his struggling sister. That's very kind, I said. But I'm actually doing fine. I know you're proud, he continued, but there's no shame in accepting help from family. Especially when some of us have been fortunate enough to be in positions where we can offer it. Behind Jake, I could see his Tesla through the kitchen window, gleaming under the streetlight. Beside it, my Honda looked exactly like what it was. A sensible car chosen by someone who either couldn't afford better or didn't prioritize automotive status symbols. I appreciate the offer, I said. Really. But I think you might be surprised by how well things are actually going for me. Jake smiled indulgently. Sarah, you work at a small accounting firm and drive a 6-year-old Honda. There's nothing wrong with that, but let's be realistic about what doing well means. You're right, I agreed. Let's be realistic. The next morning, I sat in my modest apartment. A two-bedroom unit I'd deliberately chosen in a middle-class neighborhood, with my laptop open to my investment portfolio dashboard. The numbers were all there, clearly displayed across multiple screens. Total assets under management, $847 million. Net worth, $312 million. Annual passive income, $47 million. I picked up my phone and dialed Marcus Chin, my portfolio manager at Meridian Investment Group. "Good morning, Sarah," Marcus answered on the second ring. "Happy day after Thanksgiving. How was your family dinner?" "Educational," I said. "Marcus, I need to make some adjustments to the Tech Innovations holdings." "Of course. What are you thinking?" I pulled up the Tech Innovations file on my screen. 3 shell companies held stakes: Meridian Ventures LLC 23%, Pacific Growth Fund 15%, and Cascade Holdings 9%. Combined, they represented $94.2 million in invested capital and gave me effective control over major company decisions. "I want to withdraw completely," I said. "All 3 entities, full liquidation." There was a pause on Marcus's end. "That's significant, Sarah. Tech Innovations is one of our strongest performers. Their Q3 numbers just came in 15% above projections, and they're on track for IPO consideration next year. Are you sure about this timing?" "I'm certain. Can I ask what's driving this decision? If there's something in their fundamentals that I'm missing." "It's not about fundamentals," I said. "It's about alignment." Marcus had been managing my investments for 8 years. He'd learned not to question my decisions when I used the word alignment. It was my code for moves that were driven by factors beyond pure financial return. "Understood," he said. "How do you want to handle the timeline? We could structure this over several months to minimize market impact." "No," I interrupted. "I want it done today. All of it. Full withdrawal with immediate effect." Another pause. "Sarah, that's going to trigger some serious consequences for Tech Innovations. Your holdings represent nearly half their total funding. If we pull out all at once, they're going to face immediate liquidity issues. Their expansion plans, their hiring projections, their operational budget. Everything gets thrown into chaos." "I understand. Their stock price will crater. Employees will panic. They might have to implement immediate layoffs just to maintain cash flow." "I understand. Including your brother." I looked out my apartment window at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Jake was probably arriving at the Tech Innovations offices, checking his email, reviewing his calendar, completely unaware that his sister was about to reshape his entire professional reality. "Especially my brother," I said quietly. "Okay then," Marcus said. "I'll start the paperwork immediately. Full liquidation of all Tech Innovations positions across all 3 entities. You should expect the first calls to start coming in around 11 a.m. when the markets open and the automated alerts trigger." "Thank you, Marcus." "Sarah, for what it's worth, I hope you know what you're doing." I hung up and made myself a cup of coffee. Then I sat back down at my laptop and began reviewing other positions in my portfolio. Tech Innovations had been a solid investment, but it was hardly irreplaceable. I had 12 other high-growth tech companies, plus diversified holdings in real estate, biotech, renewable energy, and international markets. The loss of $94 million in Tech Innovations would barely register in my overall financial picture. For Jake's company, however, it would be catastrophic. At 11:17 a.m., my phone started ringing. The caller ID showed Jake Donovan. I let it go to voicemail. 11 minutes later he called again. Then again at 11:32. By noon I had 7 missed calls from Jake, plus 3 from Jennifer, 2 from Mom and 1 from Uncle Richard. The voicemails told the story. 11:17 a.m. Jake confused. "Sarah, call me back. Something weird is happening at work." 11:28 a.m. Jake concerned. "Sarah, I need to talk to you. There's some kind of financial crisis at Tech Innovations. Call me back immediately." 11:34 a.m. Jake panicked. "Sarah, where are you? Our funding just disappeared. Like all of it. $94 million just vanished. The board is freaking out. Call me back right now." 12:03 p.m. Jennifer worried. "Sarah, Jake is having some kind of breakdown. Something happened at his work. Can you please call him back?" 12:15 p.m. I'm frantic. "Sarah, your brother needs you. There's been some kind of mistake at his company. Please call him back." I made lunch, a simple sandwich and some fruit, and ate it slowly while my phone continued to buzz with incoming calls and text messages. At 1:30 p.m. there was a knock at my door. Through the peephole I could see Jake standing in the hallway. His hair was disheveled, his Tech Innovations polo wrinkled, his face showing the kind of stress that comes from watching your entire world collapse in real time. I opened the door. "Sarah, thank God," he said, pushing past me into the apartment. "I've been calling you all morning. Why aren't you answering your phone?" "I was busy," I said, closing the door behind him. Jake spun around to face me, his eyes wild with panic. "Busy? Sarah, my company is falling apart. Our investors just pulled out. All of them. At the same time. $94 million gone. The board thinks it might be some kind of coordinated attack, maybe corporate espionage. The CEO is talking about emergency layoffs. My entire department might be eliminated." I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. "That sounds stressful." "Stressful?" Jake followed me, his voice rising. "Sarah, this is my career. This is my family's livelihood. Jennifer and I have a mortgage, car payments, the kids' school tuition. If I lose this job..." He stopped, running his hands through his hair. "I don't understand how this could happen. Tech Innovations was solid. We had backing from major investors. Reliable, long-term partners who believed in our mission. Sometimes investors change their minds," I said. Jake stared at me. "Change their minds? You don't just change your mind about $94 million. This is coordinated. This is deliberate." I took a sip of water and nodded thoughtfully. "It does sound deliberate. The worst part is the timing," Jake continued, beginning to pace around my small living room. "Yesterday everything was perfect. I was telling everyone about our valuation, our funding, our future plans. And now, less than 24 hours later, it's all gone. It's like someone waited for the exact worst moment to destroy us." I said. Jake stopped pacing and looked at me directly. "Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Okay. Yesterday when we were talking about success and steady work and all that, did I say something wrong? Did I offend you somehow?" I considered the question seriously. "Do you think you said something wrong?" "I don't know." Jake's voice cracked slightly. "I was trying to be supportive. I was trying to show you that there's no shame in having a steady job, in being practical. I thought I was being encouraging. You called me risk-averse. Well, you are risk-averse. That's not an insult, Sarah. That's just a fact. You work the same job, drive the same car, live in the same apartment. You don't take big swings. You don't chase opportunities. You play it safe." I set down my water glass and looked at my brother. Really looked at him. Jake was 36 years old, successful by most conventional measures, respected in his field, well-liked by his colleagues. He had a beautiful wife, 2 healthy children, and until this morning, a bright professional future. He was also completely clueless about the person standing 3 feet away from him. "Jake," I said quietly, "what if I told you that you've been wrong about me for most of our adult lives?" He frowned. "Wrong how?" "Wrong about my job. Wrong about my finances. Wrong about my risk tolerance. Wrong about my capabilities. Wrong about pretty much everything." Jake's expression shifted from confusion to irritation. "Sarah, this isn't the time for philosophical discussions about self-worth. My company just lost $94 million. I might lose my job. I need practical help, not abstract conversations about perception." I walked to my home office and returned with a folder. Inside were printed copies of my portfolio statements, investment summaries, and net worth calculations. I handed the folder to Jake. "Take a look," I said. Jake opened the folder skeptically. His eyes scanned the first page, a summary statement from Meridian Investment Group. I watched his expression change as the numbers registered. "What is this?" he asked quietly. "My investment portfolio." Jake flipped to the second page, then the third. His hands were shaking slightly as he read through line after line of holdings. Private equity funds, tech startups, real estate investments, international markets, hedge funds. "This says you have $312 million, he whispered. "Net worth," I corrected. "Assets under management are higher." Jake looked up at me, then back down at the papers, then up at me again. "This can't be real." I pulled out my laptop and turned the screen toward him. My investment dashboard was still open, showing real-time valuations across all holdings. 847 million in total assets, I said. I manage money for several high-net-worth clients in addition to my own investments. Jake stared at the screen for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. How? I'm good at what I do, I said simply. Very good. The small accounting firm you think I work for? I own it. It's a front for my investment management business. Has been for 6 years. Jake continued staring at the numbers on the screen. But you drive a Honda. I like my Honda. You live in this apartment. I like this apartment. You bought a store-bought pie. I like store-bought pie. Jake closed the folder and set it on my coffee table with trembling hands. Sarah, if this is real, if you actually have this kind of money, then why do you live like this? Why do you let everyone think you're struggling? I closed my laptop and sat down across from him. Because I wanted to see who you all really were when you thought I had nothing to offer you. The words hung in the air between us. Jake's face cycled through several expressions. Confusion, realization, shame, and finally, a dawning understanding of what had happened to his company. The investors who pulled out of Tech Innovations, he said slowly. The $94 million. That was you. That was me. You destroyed my company because of what I said at Thanksgiving dinner? I shook my head. I didn't destroy your company because of what you said yesterday. I withdrew my investment because of who you've chosen to be for the past 15 years. Jake stood up abruptly, began pacing again. This is insane. You're telling me that you've been secretly rich this entire time, funding my company without telling me, just so you could pull the rug out when I said something you didn't like. I'm telling you that I've been watching my family treat me like a charity case for 15 years while I was actually the one keeping several of your businesses afloat. Tech Innovations wasn't the only company I invested in, Jake. Remember David's law firm expansion? That was my money. Michelle's marketing agency? My money. Tom's rental properties? My down payments, filtered through shell companies. Jake stopped pacing. What? I picked up my phone and scrolled through my investment apps. David's firm, $3.2 million in growth capital. Michelle's agency, $1.8 million for their equipment and client acquisition. Tom's properties, $950,000 in down payment assistance. I've been anonymously supporting this family's success for years while you all pitted me for my supposed failures. But why? Jake's voice was pleading now. Why would you do that? Why would you help us and then destroy us? I helped you because you're my family, I said. I destroyed your company because you proved that when you thought I had nothing to offer, you treated me like nothing. Jake sank back into the chair, his head in his hands. Sarah, I never meant to hurt you. The things I said yesterday, I thought I was being kind. I thought I was being supportive. You thought you were being superior, I corrected. There's a difference. We sat in silence for several minutes. My phone continued to buzz with incoming calls and messages, but I ignored them all. Finally, Jake looked up. What happens now? Now you go back to your company and figure out how to survive without my funding, I said. You tell your board that your mystery investors decided to pursue other opportunities. You implement whatever cost-cutting measures you need to implement. You learn what it actually means to run a business without a safety net. And if we can't survive? I shrugged. Then you'll have to find new jobs. Just like millions of other people do when their companies fail. Jake's phone started ringing. He glanced at the screen, then at me. It's the CO. You should answer it, I said. Jake took the call, walking to my window while he spoke in hushed, urgent tones about emergency board meetings and investor relations and damage control. I listened with half an ear while I opened my laptop and began reviewing other positions in my portfolio. Renewable energy was performing well. My biotech investments were up 12% over the past quarter. International markets were showing strong growth potential. When Jake finished his call, he stood by the window for a long time looking out at the city. Jennifer's going to ask me to explain this, he said eventually. The kids are going to wonder why Daddy is stressed all the time. My colleagues are going to think I somehow caused this crisis. My entire professional reputation is built on the success of a company that was only successful because my sister was secretly funding it. Yes, I agreed. And you're not going to help. No. Even though you could solve this entire problem with a single phone call. I could, I confirmed. But I won't. Jake turned back to face me. Sarah, I'm sorry. I'm genuinely, deeply sorry for how I treated you yesterday, and for how I've treated you over the years. I was wrong about you, obviously. I was condescending and dismissive and probably cruel in ways I didn't even realize. If you want me to apologize publicly, if you want me to acknowledge that I was completely wrong about your capabilities and your success, I'll do that. But please don't punish everyone else at Tech Innovations for my mistakes. I considered his request carefully. Jake, how many people work at Tech Innovations? 87. And how many of those people have spent years treating their colleagues with contempt based on assumptions about their financial situation? Jake was quiet for a moment. I don't know. How many of them would change their behavior if they discovered that the person they'd been condescending to was actually more successful than they were? I don't know. How many of them would apologize because they were genuinely sorry, versus how many would apologize because they wanted access to money and opportunities? Jake didn't answer. I stood up and walked to my window, looking out at the same view Jake had been contemplating. I withdrew my investment because I realized that my money was enabling people to treat others badly without consequences. Including you. But what about the innocent people? Jake asked. The employees who are going to lose their jobs, the families who depend on those paychecks? What about them? I asked back. Do you think they deserve job security more than the people at companies I haven't invested in? Do you think your employees are more worthy of employment than workers at firms that have to succeed on their own merit? Jake was quiet. I'm not obligated to fund your company, I continued. I'm not required to protect your employees from market forces. I invested my money, watched how you used that security to treat people, and decided I didn't want to enable that behavior anymore. My phone rang again. This time it was Marcus. Excuse me, I told Jake and answered the call. Sarah, Marcus said, I wanted to update you on the Tech Innovations situation. The withdrawal is complete, but we're getting some interesting calls. Apparently word is spreading in the tech community about what happened, and we're fielding inquiries from 3 other companies who want to understand our investment criteria. What kind of inquiries? Companies that are specifically highlighting their workplace culture, their diversity initiatives, their commitment to treating all employees with respect. It seems like the message is getting out that character matters to our investment decisions. I glanced at Jake, who was watching me intently, trying to piece together my side of the conversation. That's interesting feedback, I said. Any of them worth pursuing? 2 look promising. Both have strong fundamentals and leadership teams that seem to understand that sustainable success requires treating people well at every level. I'll send you the preliminary reports. Thanks, Marcus. I hung up and looked at Jake. Your company's collapse is already creating opportunities for businesses that prioritize character over profits. Jake stared at me. You're actually proud of this. I'm satisfied with it, I corrected. There's a difference. Jake gathered his things, his car keys, his phone, the folder with my financial statements that he'd been clutching like a lifeline. I need to go, he said. I need to figure out how to explain this to Jennifer and to my team, and to everyone whose livelihood just got destroyed because I was an ass to my sister. Okay. At the door, Jake paused. Sarah, for what it's worth, I think you're wrong about this. I think you're punishing a lot of innocent people to make a point about respect and character. But I also think I probably deserved it. I think you definitely deserved it, I said. After Jake left, I made myself another cup of coffee and called Marcus back. One more thing, I said when he answered. I want you to set up a scholarship fund. Anonymous, administered through one of our shell companies. Target recipients should be people from working-class families who are pursuing business or finance degrees. Especially people who might be underestimated because of their backgrounds. How much are you thinking? I calculated quickly. The money I'd withdrawn from Tech Innovations was sitting in a money market account, earning minimal returns. Start with $50 million. Annual scholarships, full tuition plus living expenses, renewable for 4 years. That's a significant commitment, Sarah. I want the application process to include an essay question about a time the applicant was underestimated or dismissed by others. And I want preference given to people who maintain their character despite being treated poorly. Understood. Anything else? Yes, I said, looking around my modest apartment, thinking about my Honda Civic parked outside, considering my simple life that had enabled me to see my family clearly. I want the scholarship to be named for people who choose substance over status. Call it the Quiet Success Scholarship. I like that, Marcus said. I'll get the paperwork started. After I hung up, I sat in my living room for a while thinking about Thanksgiving dinner and family dynamics and the cost of enabling bad behavior. My phone continued to buzz with messages and missed calls, but I ignored them all. Tomorrow Jake would wake up to a changed world. Tech innovations would either find new funding or begin the process of failure. Jake would either learn from this experience or find someone else to blame. But tonight I was going to order Chinese takeout, read a book, and enjoy the quiet satisfaction of finally aligning my money with my values. The Quiet Success Scholarship would start accepting applications in the spring.